Well, let's bring in Philip Turle, our international affairs editor, to talk about this. So, Philip, just help us understand, first of all, is this 60-day deadline a real thing? Because the White House is saying one thing, and you have a number of congressmen who are saying, and congresswomen who are saying, well, actually, no, this number really matters and they need our approval.
Most of those congressmen being Republicans. Well, it all is a question of interpretation, Nadia, how you interpret what the rules are. I think this is also due to lack of clarification in those rules that were written down in 1973. What is the War Powers Act? It was introduced to give Congress a role in agreeing to let the US go to war after the debacle over the Vietnam War in the late 1960s and early 1970s. It hasn't been applied by any US president since then. Donald Trump is not the only one to sweep it under the carpet, if you like. But what we're seeing here is a disagreement about how it actually works. And what Pete Hegseth was saying yesterday, the US Defense Secretary, or Secretary of War, as he likes to call himself, is that in theory, there is a 60-day period after the president starts a war on a country. He has to declare to Congress that that is what he's doing after 48 hours, which is what he did on the 2nd of March. Tonight at midnight, we come to the end of that 60-day period where, in theory, Congress should have a vote as to whether or not that war should continue. What the Trump administration is saying is, well, we've won the war already and we've imposed a ceasefire, so that 60-day period does no longer exist, and therefore we don't need to ask approval from Congress to be able to continue the war. There is another way that Donald Trump can also argue for this, and that is that he can argue in favor of a 30-day period, an extension of 30 days, on top of the 60-day period, saying that is needed because military action will keep service members safe while we withdraw from the war. And on top of that, at the moment, well, Congress is in recess until the 11th of May, so there's no one there to enforce this resolution or not as to whether or not this is going to take effect and whether or not the war should be brought to an end by a vote in Congress.
And look, let's talk about Republican congressmen and women in all of this, because even though the war is deeply unpopular among the American populace, it does seem that on this, Republicans are kind of sticking with the president and they're not really going to push for a vote.
I think you're seeing here that many Republicans are uneasy with the situation. They are worried about the cost, $25 billion. That's what it's estimated to have cost this war so far since the 28th of February. But they are reluctant to stand up to Donald Trump because they know that there will be a very strong rebuke from the US president if they're to go against what he says. There are a few Republicans who will do that, and they'll stand up to Donald Trump and say what they think. They may even vote with Democrats. We had one doing it yesterday. But there is a general reluctance through fear of how Donald Trump is going to react, how other members of Congress, particularly Republicans, would also react, and whether or not they're just fighting a losing battle right from the start. So it's better to stick with the Republicans, even if behind the scenes you don't agree with what's going on. So I think that is one of the aspects. And the other one is that, yes, there is a possibility that Congress could impose a veto if Donald Trump gives the go-ahead to continue the war. The problem is that for that to happen, they need a two-thirds majority. And if you calculate the numbers of congressmen and congresswomen who are Republicans in Congress right now, then that is absolutely a long shot that would not be possible. So they know that they are losing this in advance, and it's pretty difficult to see how they're going to be able to stop this war.
All right, thanks for your analysis. Philip Turle for us there. Now, meanwhile,